I just want to briefly just go over Zoom etiquette for individuals. Just remember to have your mics muted while others are speaking. Inside of the reaction tab, if you wish to provide any feedback or have a question, just please raise your hand. And we can start with a roll call of all CAB members.
Ozzy,
Present.
Crawford,
Here.
Dale,
Here.
Carl on the call. Jonte,
Present.
Lila,
Present.
Mark. Don't see him on yet. Nicole,
Present.
Dr. Cole. We do have quorum.
Okay. Is there any other attendees not on CAB that would like to interact?
Hi, I'll just jump in. I'm Dawn. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm from Supervisor Burgess's office, and I'll be attending many of the justice systems meetings, and I'm excited to learn along with everyone else. I'll just be here in the background.
Hi there, I'm Jill Ray with Supervisor Anderson's office.
Hello, I'm Monique Tate with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Nicole Popchek, also from the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Morning all, Patrice Guillory with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any other public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board and not on this agenda? All right, so we can resume. I just want to give a brief spiel on today, just for us to understand. Once again, this is day 2 of the retreat planning. We're obviously here just to get further acquainted. I know we have a few new individuals that are joining CAB, and we definitely just want to broadcast out with information that we have to all on some exciting things for this year that we will be doing and the direction that we will be headed. Because obviously, information is essential for us to, move forward with achieving, what goals that we have for this year. So just to give a quick recap for day 1 on things that we went over for any individuals that were not on the meeting. Can I get the next slide, please? We had an excellent presentation for priorities and past accomplishments introduced to us by Michael Pitts yesterday, where we just went over some of the items that CAB obviously advocated for us, for our CBOs not to receive any reductions in their funding. Last year, we advocated for a 3% COLA, which was granted, and we also put together standardized overages and underages for CBOs and other departments that receive AB 109 funding, just to ensure that transparency and accountability of that piece is definitely in play. Also, we had documents in which we wanted individuals to look over the different subcommittees, some of the things that they obviously work on, their piece, into the whole pie for CAB to find out exactly, how they could bring in CBOs, programming services, really complete some, boots to the ground work to find out how the participants are engaging, their thoughts on how the programs, the CBOs are implementing those services, and just to get us some great feedback moving forward. Is there any questions about yesterday or where we're headed for today? Okay. Any comments from any CAB members about yesterday? Any feedback towards things that have happened? Any recap ideas that any CAB members would like to share?
Yeah, Dale's hands up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dale. I can't see.
Yeah, I've noticed, excuse me, there is a document that lists, well, it was page 67 of yesterday, and I noticed it lists advisory bodies, and CAB is not listed. The Area Agency on Aging is listed, but CAB is not listed. I was wondering why that is. But we are considered an advisory body, right?
Yeah, and I can answer.
Go ahead, Patrice.
I was going to say, yeah, we definitely operate in the same vein as typical advisory bodies. So in your packet, what you have is the advisory body manual that's put together by our clerk of the board. The only difference with the CAB is that CAB is not directly advising the Board of Supervisors. You're advising the Community Corrections Partnership, which then in turn advises the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense now.
And I think Jill can clarify even more.
That was perfect. The only other thing I would add is CAB is not appointed by the Board of Supervisors. They're appointed by the CCP.
Okay, thank you, Patrice and Jill. Great question, Dale. Do we have any other questions?
Can I add one more thing, Jante, since Dale raised it? If I can, I'd like to encourage all CAB members and those applicants that may be on the call today, when you have time for your leisurely reading, review the advisory body manual, because oftentimes, at least in the previous year, I know that there were a lot of questions coming from members just wanting to know what is the best way or the most appropriate way to conduct yourselves in meetings. At what point do you entertain a motion or things like that? What can you do? What can't you do? And so though CAB has its own operating guidelines that really, provide that that structure or that framework for which you're to operate as a body, your next go-to would be that larger document. And so we as ORJ are looking to connect with the clerk of the board that to see if they could possibly schedule some time at a future CAB meeting to actually provide a training on that manual. So we'll see if it's possible and if that would help. And I think it would also be a good, sort of like skill building opportunity for you as well. So if any of you are interested in serving on other bodies where you may actually want to apply to sit on any other advisory body that's out there that advises the Board of Sups directly, at least you would have some of that knowledge in your back pocket. So just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you so much for that, Patrice. Just prehistorically, what external boards do we usually sit on? I know Quack's one, right?
So Quack is still another subcommittee of CCP. But yes, a CAB, typically it's the CAB chair that sits on that subcommittee. So it's either CAB chair or chair appointee. Then there are, and then I wouldn't say that CAB would have a representation on any of the other bodies that you usually have report outs from. It's usually that a CAB member is assigned to attend those meetings regularly and report back what you've heard to the general body.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me. I don't see any more hands. Okay, so at this time, we're going to turn it over to Nicole.
Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday. I hope you had your coffee. It's early in the morning. I'm coming to bring that little spark to the call. So awesome job, Jonte. We're giving a recap on day one. So I won't go over that section, but we'll be reviewing a few of the documents from yesterday. Spend about 3 minutes on each, and then if there's any questions, we can go over those. So Nicole, do we want to pull up the document, the page numbers on it? So the first section that we'll go over is I can't talk this morning. Legislative intent, which starts on page 41. And I believe the link is already in the chats, but Nicole has it on the screen. So we'll spend a few minutes to review that. That's pages 41 through 42. I think we should be okay to scroll, Nicole. Okay. I know we had some great discussions yesterday in reference to this section regarding certain verbiage around community-based punishment. We reviewed a couple of the items on here, 1 and 2, as well as the data or some comments in reference to this section being rewritten. Is there any comments or feedback about what we talked about yesterday for this section? I can't really see if there's any. No? Are we all good to go? All right. The next section that we will review is justice reinvestment, which starts on page 43. Okay, so before we move on to the next document, we really didn't talk about this section that much yesterday. So we'll spend a little time in reference to the justice reinvestment section and kind of get your thoughts and your feedback over this area. See if any of you guys have any feedback, or we can go ahead and discuss this section. In reference to the reinvestment is called out in the legislative intent. So that's the document we reviewed before as well. But since we didn't really get to talk about this area and that we're looking at it now, any feedback that anyone has or has anything called out to you that you want to talk about? Spend us a couple of minutes in the section. Sorry, I have everyone's face like on the right-hand side, so I can't see it.
Nicole, this is Crawford. I'm sorry, I'm not raising my hand. I can't find the right.
It's okay, just call it out, Crawford. I'm okay with that.
Okay, might Patrice's office comment on the role that Denise plays? We talk about data gathering, we talk about certain things. Could you maybe comment briefly so those on the call could get an understanding of how you collect, how you analyze, etc., as an assist to us?
Well, that's a really big question. So the best way, that I can answer that is it depends on what's the question that's being asked. Meaning, ORJ has the privilege of supporting not only CAB, but then also the Racial Justice Oversight Body, provide some support to Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council. And so you can imagine that as groups get together and are trying to figure out what are the best ways to address some of the issues that we find within our justice system, whether it's reducing racial disparities, whether it is ensuring that adequate funding is provided for the kind of services that are in demand and needed by those who are justice system involved. What are the solutions that are necessary to in terms of addressing the issue of mass incarceration? What can our local system do to not contribute to that? Those are like some big areas of interest, as well as questions as to what will it take and what information do we need to know the best approach forward. And so in our office, depending on what that question is, we will collect information from various sources. So to some degree, we could pull data from Department of Justice and do some analysis on individuals that have some connection with DOJ or have been in the criminal justice system and that only reside here in Contra Costa. It could be simply gathering demographic information of all of those who are actually utilizing some of the contracted services that are provided through a separate data system that we have here in-house. So there's a number of ways to approach it, but it all depends on what's the question that's being asked. What is it we're trying to find out, or what is it we're trying to answer? And so if you can imagine, a lot of times the questions that are coming from community, they're really big issues. And so the way to answer then that question or find out more information with regards to what's our status on really anything with regards to how we can improve our system, the approach is a layered one. And so what I like about this description of justice reinvestment is in that top paragraph, I think it's actually a middle statement that says here, importantly, justice reinvestment is not a single decision, project, or strategy. Rather, it is a multi-stage and ongoing process whereby local stakeholders collaborate across various systems to identify drivers or criminal justice costs and then develop and implement new ways of reinvesting. So this is explaining here that in order to get to the solution, it has multiple phases. And that's the same way or same approach to research and evaluation. We have to be able to know what data well, first know what question we want to answer, know what data we need, collect that data, make sure it's quality data, right? And then have the infrastructure in place to do the analysis that's needed so we can have clear, objective findings that can then inform what decisions should be made. I hope that was clear. It was clear in my head, but I don't know if it came out that way.
Thank you.
Great question, Alfred. Any other feedback or questions? If you don't know how to raise your hand, you can just go off mute and call it out. I am okay with that.
He'll have his
See,
hand
I
up.
see Dale, yeah, go ahead, Dale.
Okay.
Yeah, Patrice, all of the areas that ORJ oversees, so to speak, or at least is involved with, I would assume that there are several duplicate approaches. And so those have, and maybe those are not coordinated, right? In other words, I'm on the housing work group for the area agency on aging, and yet housing is important here. So I don't know if there's any, link or coordination.
That's an excellent point, Dale. Thank you for raising that. And we're slowly moving in the direction where we can build better collaboration around research efforts between various agencies. So we have established some data sharing agreements with H3. We're really happy about that, as well as EHSD. So that was our Employment and Human Services Department, and then H3 is our homeless housing, health homeless housing services division. Hopefully we can do more in the future with other departments, but for now, those agencies have agreed to share data with us so we can do that linkage and follow where individuals are traveling across different systems to get a better sense of what the needs are, what resources are being utilized. I like to say that health services is pretty far ahead. I think probably of any department on their own. They've developed specific algorithms, to understand and learn of who are their high utilizers of really crucial services there. So that way they can have a more preventative approach and more direct intervention for those who are utilizing the emergency room services over and over and over, things like that, that might have real critical needs that can be addressed in other ways, and therefore then reducing costs for our county's healthcare system. So we have a long ways to go. This is somewhat new and nascent on our side of the house in terms of the justice system work and data collection and analysis and things like that. So we are internally trying to figure out ways that we can be best equipped and better equipped to develop the infrastructure that's needed to be more responsive to some of the questions that community has. But we're recognizing that it's really all hands on deck. It can't just simply come from ORJ. It definitely has to involve collaboration of other departments as well.
So this is Nicole. I'd like to add more to it. I got really excited, Patrice, when you mentioned H3, because I know one of the biggest things that majority of us talk about is housing. Like Crawford talks about mental health, Dale talks about aging with seniors, and the key component is H3. So that just made me very happy to hear you say that. And from a CAB standpoint, I know last year we talked about housing, so that'd be awesome if there was a way, especially in program and services subcommittee to be able to collect data. But I'm happy to know that ORJ will be collecting that data in reference to, because that would really benefit our population that we serve, because that is the missing key. So that made me very happy.
Yeah, well, and just to clarify, we're not collecting data from them specifically. We're at least establishing an agreement between each agencies, because mind you, health, housing, and homeless services is still within the confines of health services. So there are certain, regulations and things like that that they have to follow with regards to sharing information. And so it was a long road, but we were able to negotiate an agreement that allowed for data sharing to happen between the two, and work out what are those stipulations with regards to any information that we would request from them, and then vice versa. So that is a strong step in the right direction.
It is.
For sure. Because it's many agencies work in silos, right? We went over that big organizational structure the other day. And, that's just a quick picture. But if you can imagine, each of those departments have their own set of operations, right? They have their own way of doing, and they're responsible for, certain things, certain services, certain deliverables that they have for the public at large, mind you. Okay, so it's not just specific populations, it's the public at large. And so, they have certain regulations and rules that they have to follow, their own departmental policies as well. So, it's a lot, but it is so important to be able to move through the bureaucracy and the red tape to get us to be able to better coordinate across agencies. It's definitely a huge step.
It's a great start. It's a very great start. Thank you, Patrice. Dale, did you have another question?
Yeah, I would assume that it's one thing when you're working with county, county areas, and then another, each city could have something that they're dealing with too. And with all of the number of cities we have, there could be an incredible variety, I would assume.
Thank you, Dale. Lila, I think I seen your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
What caught my attention this morning on this document is is the piece about documenting costs and potential savings. That part seems interesting to me and maybe kind of challenging within this model. And I know this is a tough question, but I'm just wondering if folks know of like a case study or a place where justice reinvestment has really done that part well. I'm just curious about what that looks like, documenting the costs and the savings and how that's been done successfully.
Good morning.
Hi, Michael, and it's okay if nobody has an answer for this. It's it's just what's on my mind in a broad question.
I don't know of any specific best examples, maybe if that's what you're asking. But I do know that, and I can look it up while we're going through the meeting, but I believe the Urban Institute, which is a very large research institute that's based in Washington, D.C., has been supporting or providing TA support to states who are implementing a justice reinvestment approach. And so they may have some case studies along with that to share what's been done in other states, particularly around the I guess that's number 4, document costs and potential savings. Yeah.
Thanks, Patrice. That was really helpful. And we work with at Rubicon with the Urban Institute for our FACT program. So that's, yeah, it's helpful to think about, real world places and ways that this is being utilized. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no more questions in regards to this. Oh, Jure, you have a question? See your hand up.
I just wanted to respond. Yeah, I just looked it up. So Stepping Up Initiative, which our county is part of, and it's about separating people with mental illness who struggle with mental health issues from the criminal justice system. And there are case studies in that data. There's a variety of different areas that, and health services has done a lot of studies on the cost of treating people early on versus, later in life when things have fallen apart.
I don't know what I did to my screen, but okay. So any more questions before we move to the next section? Great topics, great discussion. And Patrice has put a link in the chat. You could take a look at for the regarding your question. All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move over to the next section, which is the CCP budget, which starts on page 33 of the document. And we reviewed this yesterday. Patrice did give an awesome overview to kind of break down each section. So we'll take a quick glance at that. You probably scroll down, Nicole. We can probably scroll down now, Nicole. I can't scroll it. Oh, can I scroll it? I'm like, am I scrolling or are you scrolling? And let me know if you have any questions as she's scrolling. So that's the end of that section. Does any comments or questions or anything from yesterday that we talked about? Anyone have any questions on or want to revisit before we move on? Don't see any hands. All right, so then we'll move over to the AB 109 community program budget. We had great discussions on this section. I know Crawford brought up some key things in reference to mental health and how we can probably allocate funds in reference to that for that service. So I know we had a great conversation yesterday. Any other questions or anything that came up after we left for part one yesterday that anyone want to bring up regarding this section? Terry, I think I see your hand up.
Thanks. I noticed there's no increase in the MHET teams, and I wondered why that was staying at the same expense level.
That's in the previous document, the total request. Yeah, so these were actually dollar amounts that were contracted directly to police departments to assign an officer to join the actual team that is coordinated by a behavioral health division. So yeah, there was no request from the Police Chiefs Association for any increases. So it just remained status quo.
Oh, okay. So that's just the police line, not the mental health counselor support engagement.
Right. Now, I would say the mental health, okay, I see Jill hands up. She probably wants to clarify some more.
Go ahead, Patrice, finish what you were going to say, and then I'll add on.
I was just going to say that now for behavioral health, I believe their numbers did increase just a little bit. There was requests from them to have a funding to support a clinician to then pair with actually sheriff deputies who were where the sheriff's office was requesting a portion of AB 109 funding to help support grant funding that they also received to then have Met officers that coming from their office, so sheriff deputies. Obviously behavioral health felt that it was really important. Well, if you're going to have a sheriff deputy that's assigned to Met, it's imperative that a clinician is also added as well. So behavioral health ended up getting not only an additional clinician to then pair with the sheriff deputies, but then also are now in charge of these contracts from the Police Chiefs Association that was previously administered by our office, so that they have now more of a handle on the actual Met service and operation, if you will, whereas at one point it was kind of disaggregated out.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that, the Police Chiefs Association is the 3 original Met officers who were in West, Central, and East. The sheriff in his budget has, I think, 3 Met officer positions as of this next fiscal year. And that's where the behavioral health partner is added in there. But the greater discussion is, this is after a 5150 call. These teams are engaged. They also do some training, and they will do some presence in the event of a crisis. But our goal is to avert the crisis from happening, which is where our A3 anyone, anywhere, anytime program, which is being lifted up, is going to address those issues. And a lot of work was done to determine what was the best model to deal with a crisis situation. And it was determined that having police present was not the best model. And so those teams will be built differently than these teams, and they serve a different purpose, which is really more in the diversion area to avert a crisis rather than respond after a crisis. So they're both important, but I think that the intent of the county is to move toward diversion and averting crisis situations.
Thanks for that explanation, because that's my concern too, is that, you know, first it's mental health response before it's a police, even a police accompanying or sheriff accompanying response. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you for the question. Any other questions? Okay, I did good. I'm a little couple of minutes over, Crawford, but that's okay. So, okay, awesome questions and discussions. So I'm looking, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Crawford, which will review the CAP purpose and functions.
Well, thank you, Nicole. I'll pick up the baton here from you, so to speak. Would each of you be kind enough to go to page 40, that is also listed as attachment 13, and review this document? Take about 3-4 minutes. And while you're perusing the document, I'd like you to focus on what piques your curiosity. Is there something that you feel is current? Is there something you feel that maybe we need to take a second look at, or whatever? So look at it from that lens, if you might. So Nicole, could you be the timekeeper here? 3-4 minutes, and then we'll see if we get any responses.
Nicole P or Nicole G?
Oh, excuse me. Let's try Nicole P.
Okay.
Hey, she already passed the baton.
No, I was thinking the same thing, but I just defaulted to you, Nicole P. So,
hey, or better yet, hey, did we drop it, Nicole G?
You're good.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Crawford, can we ask questions as we go through this, or do you want to
Oh.
wait until the end?
Why don't we just go through, and maybe we can cut it to 4 minutes, 3 minutes, and then Dale, you're the first one in the queue with your question. Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Thanks, Dale.
I believe that's time.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Nicole P. So we get that straight. Okay, let's move forward. Dale, you had the first question. Please proceed.
Yeah, item 2C, if you could scroll up just a little bit. My question is, what might be the process of holding the CCP and the BOS accountable for justice reinvestment? Has it been identified or worked out as to how we go? I mean, we can say we're going to hold them accountable, but obviously they are the bosses. So maybe that should be worded a little differently, but nevertheless, what is the process?
Might I comment here that maybe the first, and Michael Pitts, I noticed, is here with us. When we say we hold them accountable, we make recommendations to each of these particular bodies. And through those recommendations, in effect, that is holding them accountable because they have an opportunity to evaluate the recommendations and possibly accept them. So in effect, they are being accountable. I'm not sure if I covered that exactly. Maybe Michael or Patrice or anyone else would like to add to that particular comment.
Yeah, the only thing I would add here is that I think the word accountability in this regard is in reference to the fact that justice reinvestment is called out in the actual legislation. So to that degree, ensuring that justice reinvestment as an approach is something that is followed and or applied. Now, how that's applied would be determined, that's maybe something where CAB can then advise CCP on, but I think it's in response to what the legislative intent for AB 109, which calls out for justice reinvestment. And so it's making sure that our electeds are in fact, and our partnership are in fact following that.
Thank you, Patrice. Anyone else care to make a comment on item 2C that Dale has mentioned? Oh, Terry Dunn.
No, after 2C, I have a separate question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Anything else on 2C? Nothing then being seen. Let's move then. Terry Dunn, you're up.
I just typographically, I'm curious under item 2, is there a missing item A, or is that just a formatting situation?
Good point.
Just formatting.
Okay, I do that all the time. That's why I know it. Okay, thanks.
I mean, honestly, though, this is like a good opportunity for folks to review this stuff, right? Because as you see, it hasn't been updated since 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. Terry, any other further comment? Okay, I can't see the full queue here. Are there any other comments, or please chime in if you have them? Okay, no other comments. I just want to make then a comment. And Patrice, you nailed it. The first thing I looked at was the date on the dad blame document. I said, doggone, here we are. And not that the items aren't pertinent, but this is 2017, 5 years ago. And you would think that we would hopefully during this next session that we could take a look at least, hey, worst case is we'll change B and C on item 2 to A and B. And then we'll change the date on it so we know it's updated, but that's neither here nor there. But you know what I thought was interesting? Take a look at items number 2, number 3, and number 6. Well, if you step back, and we are gonna get this later on in the present, through our presentations, those are our 3 major standing committees and the tasks that they are charged with. So just think about that. So what we've done here is we've integrated the information that we should be gathering from those subcommittees, and we're putting it out here and saying, this is what we're all about. So I don't want to get ahead of myself because I think I'm covering some of those other areas, but it just dawned on me when I looked at it, I said, holy smoke, here we are. So any other comments now prior to moving forward? Because I have one other comment, but I don't want to talk. I think we need to listen. Any other comments?
Michael's hands up.
Michael?
Yeah, I got one comment, but just the idea that I think the 2017, that date on there, I think that's important and it's on purpose. And it's the idea that where we're looking at what are the ongoing duties, the ongoing work of CAB. That's just going to continue through every single year. So I think, I don't know if Patrice was, had this out here because I'm sure she had a lot to do with this, how wonderful, how everything was really codified in that retreat back in 2017. But it looks like to me that it really crystallizes the things that are our ongoing duties and what we're going to be looking at every single year. So this kind of covers our general duties, and then coming out of here, that's when you may be having some more specific goals and aims for the coming year.
Michael, might you suggest then to us, since that was the initial point of doing this, maybe when we have our dates, we make a reference to beginning in 2017, and then we state through 2022 or something of that nature, so we know this is ongoing?
I mean, I guess that's for you folks to decide, but I'm just putting out that that's why it's not like it's a dated form. I don't think that's the purpose. Like we say 2017, oh wow, this is an old document. No, the point is that I believe that this is the CAB that really solidified things in the retreat, and that this is really on one page, kind of what we need to do. And then we did change. We did have that spotlight for you on there, Crawford, because that wasn't on there in 2017. So,
okay.
so that's my point. I mean, it's for you folks to decide, but I just wanted to, it's not that 2017. From my perspective, it's on purpose. That's kind of when this got codified.
Michael, I love the way you approach the comment. We can make that work. I think we can make that work, Michael. So thank you for the clarification. Were there any other comments?
Yeah, this is Dale.
Yes, Dale.
Michael is raising an interesting point, and maybe what we might want to consider going forward is on documents that are important like this, that at the bottom of the document, it shows the origination date and then any subsequent dates where it has been revised. And that way people can go back to those years if they need to see what it was prior to the revision.
Good suggestion. And again, those are some things I think maybe we can take a look at. Again, all very good suggestions. Are there, Patrice, I see your hand is up in the queue.
Yeah, I agree with Dale and Michael on this. Just to kind of give some historical perspective, I was a participant when this document was created. I didn't actually support, I didn't put it together or provide any support in that kind of way. But what I remember from this particular retreat was that up to that point, every year, CAB was just sort of trying to figure out what new recommendations it wanted to present to the CCP, right? And so it prompted discussions around, well, we know what to sort of expect over every year that's going to, the type of products that's going to come out from us. But what is actually what is the way in which we want to function as it relates to within the scope of what it is our charge is. So that's what helped to shape some of this. And so Michael's right, these are legacy documents that are really good to refer back to as you think about your work going forward. So even though you're planning for 2022 work, really what you're doing is either continuing work from a prior year or continuing work from actually recommendations that were maybe 2 years ago, that were first introduced 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? What at the time CAB recognized was that, you know, change is incremental. And so the things that we're calling for in this particular moment, if we're not CAB members anymore, future CAB terms will likely be picking up the baton and moving forward. So, and we wanted to be sure that we were clear about what sort of space we wanted to hold within this discussion about public realignment. What was it that we wanted to focus our efforts toward in order to help shape some of our policy recommendations, our budget recommendations and things of that nature, as well as what do we need to keep an eye on, right? So that spotlighting piece, what are challenges or issues that might come up because the landscape changes, right? There are different issues that happen both locally, statewide, nationally that might impact. There's changes in leadership as well locally. So, you know, keeping a central focus on how we function was really imperative to know then how we can be nimble in the future to address things that we felt were important to address.
Thank you, Patrice. Any other comments? Okay, well, maybe what we could do, or we should take a look at, this is our foundation, and maybe we can change the wording at the beginning to reflect this is our foundation, and we continue to strengthen and to enhance, etc. And so that we know kind of what our starting point has been, but like any foundation, you gotta, check the mortar, make sure the bricks aren't cracked and whatever. So I think this has been excellent discussion. Unless there are any other questions or any other comments.
This is Dale. I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Of wording adjustment for 2C. We can say monitoring adjustment reinvestment for the CCP and the BOS. I'm uncomfortable with us using the word accountable in terms of people that are basically our bosses, of saying we're going to hold them accountable. I do understand the importance of our role, and I think if our role is to monitor justice reinvestment and in behalf of the CCP and the BOS, then that sounds better to me personally.
Excellent suggestion, Dale, but may I just make one other comment? Maybe on this particular body, they may be our boss, but we're the boss because we're taxpayers and we pay their salaries. I'm just going to throw that one out to you, but go ahead. Any other comments?
Just wanted to.
Lila, could somebody mute in the background? I think we've got a little conversation. Oh, thank you. Go ahead, please, Lila.
Okay, so I just wanted to chime in because that was the same point that really stood out to me on the document was the one that Dale lifted up. Okay, so it's 3A, correct? Advanced policy record.
No,
I just-
two C.
2C, okay, hold CCP and BOS accountable for justice reinvestment. I think that that is a very huge task, and it's maybe, you know, one of the biggest areas of stretch, you know, and growth for us on the CAB. I wouldn't want to change the word accountable because I think it's aspirational, and that it is important that we do see ourselves as being part of the accountability process, even if we can't make the ultimate decisions. We can, you know, speak with conviction and, you know, do our research and make recommendations. So I don't know if we are making changes to the document right now, but just wanted to add a little bit more about it. Yeah, that point stood out for me. And how do we do that? You know, that was a question that Dale asked, and I think it's definitely a challenge and something to lean into, but I don't know if I would.
Go ahead now, Stuart.
We can,
So he's in the service.
Any other comments? Maybe just to circle back, Lila, I think once our board starts meeting, we can then figure out which committee, or if it's going to be the board as a whole, how to address the, you know, this particular document, page 40 of the purpose and functions of CAB. So, and again, Jonte, maybe you can chime in with little guidance from you, how we might want to approach this going forward as maybe one of our working items from one of our standing committees. Jonte?
Jill has a comment.
Oh, excuse me. I can't see on my screen. I'm sorry. Jill, please.
I'm happy to defer to Jonte to respond first.
I think he's on mute. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
We're trying to figure out how do we approach making changes to this document that is page 40 of the packet. Do we deal with it, or maybe we should talk about it at the general CAB meeting, and then possibly a particular standing committee could deal with certain changes, updates, again, strengthening the foundation, and then we could have input from various people such as Lila, Dale, etc. Again, just wanted to kind of get your.
I would definitely say in the essence of time, sort of at the general meeting, we have a few other topics to discuss today at the retreat, and obviously nothing could be, you know, changed today, but it's some pretty good ideas and feedback that we have. I'm more inclined to stick with what's there, with just, you know, adding to for where the direction that we're headed. If historically, if you look back at, you know, CAB pillars, it remained the same since about 2012 when it started up to 2017, with a few minor adjustments now to where we're at. So yeah, during the general CAB meeting was where I would say we would, you know, look at it to see if we wanted to make any changes. Not here.
Thank you, Jonte. Jill?
So my only comment is just to underscore the significance and importance of the people on the ground, the boots on the ground, which is you all, in advising the decision makers on all decisions being made, because those decisions are not made in a vacuum. They're made by input from the community who are experiencing these issues. And so I just want to underscore how important and significant you all are as voices for the communities you represent.
Thank you, Jill. Any other comments? And I noticed a thumbs up from you, Lila. I can see you on the screen. Okay. Any other comments before we pass the baton here? Okay, I guess Nicole and Patrice, the two of you are up. And thank you.
Thanks, Crawford. So we're moving along to review the CAB accomplishments and policy platform, which we'll go ahead and review CAB's accomplishments in the prior year. We'll take a few minutes to review page 32. There's a few slides that we can just kind of go through the slide. It's actually the details on the slide as well, but in the attachment, it starts at page 32 if you want to look there. We'll take about 3 minutes to review this information due to timing, and then we'll go over a few reflection questions.
I'm sorry, Nicole, you saying we're going to go straight to the policy platform?
Yes, we're going to go directly. Thank you, Patrice. That's why I need you with me.
Okay.
We'll go right into because I missed that part. I'm sorry. Thank you. The policy platform, which will start on page 32. Sorry about that, you guys, if I confused anyone. So Nicole, if you can pull that up and then we can review that. Thanks for catching that, Patrice, because I was having the slides on one side. All right, take a couple of minutes, 3 minutes to kind of review that.
And Nicole, is it okay if I can set the context on this document as well for folks as they're reviewing it? Is that okay? Okay. So this was, as you see, was adopted by CAB in 2018. Again, this is another one of those legacy documents similar to the purpose and functions document we just saw previously. And this the intention, or the intention and creation of this was really to guide CAB's future work around big issues that they would then later sort of break down or break apart or break down what some of the action steps may need to be taken through the subcommittee's work plans or through CAB's overall agenda for that year. So if you see in the first portion of this document is a policy statement. I'm sure this looks very familiar to many of you, right? But then following that were the specific policy actions that were really critically important at that time in 2018 that also continued on in other years as well. So again, another legacy document for you to review, and I will turn it back to you, Nicole, to facilitate conversation once folks have had time to read.
I believe that's the end of the section, Nicole, for part 2. Okay, so as everyone had a second to review this, we can kind of go over some of the questions. If anyone has any questions in reference to what may have stood out to you after reviewing this document, are there any surprises after you look at this document? And are the statements and actions relevant for CAB's future work? Any feedback so far on this in reference to those questions? Dale, I see your hand up. I'm not sure, is it still up from our last part, or is that a new question that you have?
No, it's a new hand.
Okay, awesome.
A policy, under policy actions, it says implement recommendations and so forth. And it references a document from December 2016. I'm wondering, do we have a location where we store documents like that we can go to and look at? I think we need to have a location for some of these major documents so that we can go to one source and look at them.
Yes, Dale, I'll definitely send you that document to your email.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said I'll send you the key finding report from 2016.
Oh, thank you very
Email?
much.
Oh.
Yeah, but it would be nice if we had a location, or maybe we do, you know, a location that we could access, a folder or something that would contain some of these major documents.
So Jonte, do we have a place that we store it, or?
No, I actually just stumbled upon it when I was just reviewing documents from when I first joined CAB. So that's why I'm aware of it. So when I seen this actual document, I just went back and looked at it. But I think Nicole Pete definitely has, you know, all the prehistoric documents, and she has them in a folder. Nicole, would you care to touch a little bit?
Yeah,
to that?
I mean, ORJ has all these legacy documents, but also they should have been posted publicly, right, when they discuss
Right.
them. So you would have to do some digging to find it, but if you have a specific document that's referenced that you're looking to get access to more quickly, our office can help you locate that.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I'm under number 2 policy actions. It says D, in current money-based justice programs and invest in restorative justice and diversion. What were they referring to when they said money-based justice practices?
Great question. That was in reference to cash bail reforms that were rumbling at the time, as well as the administrative fees that were placed on individuals who were under supervision in the county. That's in addition to any restitution that they would have to pay and other fines or fees that they would have to pay. So the idea here was to address the fact that when the criminal justice system unfortunately creates additional harm and more collateral damage to already a very vulnerable population, what are ways that we can minimize that? So that's where that was coming from. And instead invest in other restorative practices or diversionary programs that would then link individuals to the type of resources that they would need so that they can move further and further away from being a justice system involved.
Okay.
So these separate bullets, such as appoint a restorative justice czar, this is almost synonymous with the idea that came out of, was it programs and services, about creating a restorative justice committee. Back then, the CAB was thinking of at least a point person in the county that would have knowledge and expertise on restorative justice and how to implement that. and then develop a true community court program. Actually, the district attorney's office is in the process of establishing what she calls the neighborhood courts. Again, another opportunity to provide a more restorative approach to issues that are for individuals who have committed offenses that are really very, very low level, misdemeanor level. And then, as I mentioned, abolish the fees for probation and CAF. So it's looking to swing the pendulum the other way rather than collecting funds from an already impacted population to let's find other alternatives to still address the issue of accountability when an offense is done or created, but then also address the actual underlying needs that are contributing to those sort of actions that are taken.
All right, thank you.
Jill has her hand up.
I would just add to that the Board of Supervisors did abolish all the county fees that they, or should say most of the county fees, as well as collections for both juvenile and adults. So that has been done to the extent that we can. And the state also has done that.
Right. Yes, great point. So that might be, if you're talking about a reason to update a form or a document, right, it might be that the issue is for the most part addressed.
Thank you.
And Lila, you have your hand up?
Yes, I like Dale's idea of having the prior, maybe it's like 5 years of CAB, you know, recommendations and policy actions visible at one time. I know I felt like in my CAB years, sometimes it would later on in the year, I would rediscover, oh yeah, like this has come up a bunch of times. And, you know, folks who have more history, you know, with the CAB, you know, might already know that, but if you're newer, I think it can be helpful to see that continuity of, you know, prior actions over, you know, the last several years or, you know, 5 years, and how things have developed. And, you know, and I know that that's, you know, we have leadership and we have our chair, you know, who are also carrying that continuity. It would be helpful for me to just kind of review those, you know, prior years and put things into perspective as well. And I, in some ways it could also like provide leverage because it's, you know, this is coming up again, or this is an idea from the past that we'd like to change, you know, as we're speaking to. And Patrice, I'm really glad. Yeah. So however that could be solved, whether it was a link to a folder that, you know, is posted publicly. I do know it is kind of hard to find things, you know, on the document search for all of the agendas. And I'm glad that Patrice, you know, brought up restorative justice and these different points at the end that are all in different places of movement. And I think something that stands out for me also from this document is really the piece about, it's coming. I can really not like read this. I lean in super close, but there's a piece about justice for all. Oh yeah, it's 1D. We believe that safety for all depends on justice for all. And I think that there is a lot of work, you know, that goes into that. And it's, you know, we've talked about racial justice and, you know, different committees involved in that. There are, you know, often victims, you know, that also come into play. And so I think that's just something that comes to my mind is the the importance and the care of really looking to seek out justice for all, and how much work that entails, and how deep of a commitment it takes from everybody involved to really strive towards that and reach that. And I'm excited about this move with restorative justice, and I also know that many of these programs, they have to be developed carefully and thoughtfully, with all stakeholders in mind, and have accountability and oversight and energy continually dedicated to them. So I'm excited, and I had a lot to say about that.
Awesome. Dale, do you have another question?
I was thinking that, thank you, Mark, for raising your question. And I was thinking, based on the response to it, if this no longer is an issue, then we need to revise this document. And we would need to look at all documents in terms of revisions. But if money-based justice practices no longer exist, then it should not be here, because it's confusing.
Just to be clear, money-based practices still exist at different levels. So the courts have their fees, and so there's a variety of other things in there that, and then the bail reform issue is still ongoing.
Great feedback. I don't think I see any more hands. Okay, is there any more questions in reference to this section before I pass the baton back to Crawford? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, Crawford, I'm gonna pass the baton back to you to review our homework.
Okay.
I know the dog ate mine, so I would Jate.
Okay, well, all right. I just hope the dog didn't eat anybody's homework here, but could you go to slide, please start on slide 12 there, Nicole, so we can get a frame of reference here. This is the slide. Yeah, can you go back to, yeah, there we go. And we're going to start here reviewing what we ended our previous meeting with as to items we had suggested that you take a look at. Excellent here. Now, this is on slide 13. These are the areas we'd like you to take a look at. We've asked for about 8 minutes. And again, these are the headings that we talked about yesterday. Policy recommendations, that's page 22 to 25. Our ambassador talking points, we kind of summarized those yesterday also, 26 to 28. And then attachment 8, pages 29 to 31. The executive summary, and we were making a pitch. Can we make this easier on the people that have to do a lot of intensive work at the end of the year? So could you take a few moments now? Hopefully you read this last night, and then you'll take maybe about 5 minutes, 6 minutes just to review it. And then we can possibly walk through some of these items. So would you start the clock for us, Nicole P., and take around 6 minutes or so, and let's see what we can come back with as to observations, thoughts, etc. Thank you. 6 minutes and counting.
That's time, Crawford.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Why don't we begin with, let me set the stage here first, and in the, to be sensitive to our time commitments, we'll try to cover one of these items, for example, attachment 6, pages 22 through 25. We'll go up to 10:45. We'll take a break. We all may need one. And then after that, we can resume. So let's see if we can adhere to that. Let's begin with the first item, which is policy recommendations. And let me throw some items to you. And what was the old story? Food for thought. Have your past experiences suggested another approach to these items? Are there differences now than what we saw last year or were involved in? And based on these documents or the items that you're going to be reading, are there other priorities that we need to consider? And then finally, and probably most important, based on these documents, these pages, which are the areas that you would personally be excited about working on, in, with, etc.? So with that said, can somebody start off with just a general perception of policy and budget recommendations? Anybody, any hands up? Again, I can only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can only see 7 in my queue. They're clear so far. Let me look some more. Therefore, with no questions, no observations, can we assume that you are thoroughly 100% satisfied with what's in front of you? Any comments there?
Well, Dale, I'll help you out. my buddy here. I mean, I was very excited reading through here. You know me, outside of being cab, I'm like a housing nut when it comes to reentry. So I was really excited about, just seeing recommendation 1 as we, dealt with a lot of challenges with COVID. And I think it gave us an idea of areas that just across the board that need to be changed or not changed or looked into. Very excited about the recommendations in here. I'm sorry, I highlighted a whole bunch of different things. So Nicole has up one there. I have my own PDF up. Recommendation 3, in reference to the programs and services, stood out to me as well. I was excited about these recommendations that's moving on into the future being part of CAB last year. Really seeing these things that are being recommended for change in the upcoming year. So that's my piece on it.
Nicole, thank you. You saved
welcome.
me. You saved me.
I couldn't leave you out there by yourself.
Yeah, hey, Nicole, this is going to be fun working with you going forward. And hey, somebody said yesterday, I'm drowning. Can you help me? I said, heck yeah, I got to figure out how to work the daggone chats before I help you, for Christ's sake. Okay, Terry Dunn, your hand is up. Please comment.
Thank you. Yeah, the recommendations are great. I just have one word I want to suggest changing twice in recommendation 5. It lifts up supporting individuals with disabilities. And since we're talking about people instead of objects, after the word disabilities, say with disabilities who are also justice system involved instead of that are. I don't know if it's in the middle line of the bold at the top right there.
Yes.
And then it's also in the end of the first line of the paragraph below. Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Excellent observation. We
Okay.
needed to, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the queue? Going once? Okay, Lila, there we go.
I saw Lanita's hand up first, so I was waiting.
Oh, Lanita, okay.
Thank you, thank you. So I know I haven't really been active in speaking in this forum because I don't know if I'm supposed to or not. But two of my expertise, one is supporting and helping people who live with disabilities in their lives and challenges, and two is employment. So what I do is I'm an employment coordinator and I develop jobs in Contra Costa County for people who are living with challenging disabilities in their lives. And so one of the places that I would love to help if I am elected to be a part of this board is definitely the reentry piece for people who live with challenging disabilities or disabilities in their lives of all sorts, and also the employment piece, because I know how challenging that is for people coming home and reunifying. And I also know how challenging that is for people who live with disabilities coming home and reunifying. So that would be a place that I would definitely be interested in helping serve.
Anita, thank you for your comment, and please make sure when you're being interviewed that you mention that. And be careful that somebody may tap you on the shoulder for programs and services.
Okay.
Hint, hint, hint. Okay, Lila, you're up.
Thank you, Crawford. So it's amazing you can read the same thing again and again and, you know, different things stand out. I was surprised that it felt so new to me to look at this because we were, you know, working on this last year quite a bit. There were two of these that really stood out to me. Number 3 was the first one about ensuring that the reentry system, you know, is trauma informed, you know, is dealing with its racial biases, and you know, culturally responsive and appropriate. And this is the one that you know, there's not a whole lot of direction about how that will be done, or, you know, like, is it going to be trainings that are going to be, you know, offered throughout the system? Is it, you know, checking in to see what organizations are already doing in terms of trainings? So that was one of them that piqued my curiosity. And then the other one was number 6. Thank you so much for scrolling to it. And I was just curious where we're at with this, because I know that many places and spaces, Rubicon included, have, you know, removed, like, banned the box, or, you know, it's not an automatic decision if someone, you know, has a criminal conviction that they're not going to line up with a position. And so I was just wondering if we could briefly, if I could get a reminder of what the county policy is right now on background checks, and because I thought that was already something that we had moved towards.
Possibly, Patrice, might you help us out in that particular area?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things on this. I want to say, yes, the county does have a ban the box policy in place, and maybe Jill can correct me if I'm wrong, but then there's also state legislation, the Fair Chance Act, which you know, provides provides a new way in which applicants can be, or candidates for certain job opportunities can, their applications can then be reviewed with the criminal backgrounds or background checks then being assessed at a later point. And so conditional offers can be made if in the event the individual is actually qualified, has the experience that's necessary to fulfill the job. A conditional offer can be made. And then once a background check is then conducted, the employer can make a determination from there. I'm just giving a really simplified version. I'm sure there's much more to it than just that, but it was in the effort. You can look at a Fair Chance Act, the Fair Chance Employment Act, Fair Chance Act. Google either one, it's gonna come up. But the intent there was to reduce bias so early on in the application process. Now, what this is calling for in recommendation 6 is essentially to go a step further than just simply ban the box. That's one thing, but it is to say that the county will make a concerted effort to actually hire from within this population. And I know I can say from experience that I've gotten calls from employers, so private sector companies that are like, hey, we have so many jobs we need to fill, and we've worked with parole offices in other parts of the state. So this is something that we do. We would like to be able to know if there's a way that we can connect with folks that are, under some form of supervision, that are looking for opportunities, looking for livable wage jobs and benefits and things of that nature. And then Charles is on the line as well with a Workforce Development Board. I know he has much more experience with that, working directly with other employers. And actually, the reminder, now I'm mentioning Charles, and Charles can speak to this more than I can, that the county did in fact have its own Fair Chance employer initiative, asking and courting business owners and local employers to provide them with whatever support that they may need to then take interest within this population. So I'll stop there and take a step back. I'm not necessarily an employment expert, but the folks that are on the line are and can speak to that.
Okay, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we stop right here? I think we're at 10:46. We promised 10:45. What would be appropriate? A 10-minute break, 15, please, let's set.
10 minutes will be fine.
Okay, and then we can follow 10 minutes, we'll follow up. And I believe we've got to make up a little time here, and we'll do our best. And I think we have a gentleman with us, Charles. Maybe he could provide us as we start the next session. I think Lila, your hand was up, or you were taking it down. And then the gentleman, Charles Brown, I believe, maybe you can comment for just maybe a minute or two. We would most appreciate your input. Let's take a deep breath. I got to take my 10-minute break. Okay, thank you. I believe it's time to begin. And hopefully everybody, let's give you 30 seconds or so to sign back in. And hopefully we are ready to go. So maybe it's time to, as they say, I'm a Star Trek fan, so it's time to engage. So why don't we begin? Charles Brown, thank you for joining us. Can you give us just some brief comments? And then Terry Dunn, you were next in the queue.
Sure. Thanks, Crawford, for giving me the opportunity to share. If you can refresh what the specific ask was, I just want to make sure I'm clear.
I think the ask came from, was it Lila? I think, was it your ask, Lila? Oh, Lila's on mute. Just a minute.
Okay.
Well, I can, while she's probably trying to get back to the screen. There was conversation on this particular recommendation, Charles, around what the county's efforts have been to support employment opportunities for justice involved folks. So we talked a lot about Fair Chance Employment Act, Fair Chance work that you guys have done in the past. That was prior to that legislation being passed. Someone mentioned in the chat that there's been a ban in the box, both at the state level, and my understanding is that happened at the county level as well a while back. So anything else you wanted to add to qualify?
Okay, thanks, Patrice. So AB 1008 is the bill for ban the box, and I would say Contra Costa County, as if not the largest employer in Contra Costa County, one of the largest, they actually adopted it, I want to say back in 2015. And what that actually means is that they will actually allow the person to apply for a position, go through the process of interviewing and everything, and on the back end, we'll do a background check. And so it would be after a job offer is offered. And so those are the things that Ban the Box has allowed people to do. But Contra Costa County, aside from its law enforcement positions, they do implement, Ban the Box, AB 1008. Of course, for as our targeted group of AB 109 nonviolent offenders, they automatically qualify upon release expungement. And so they don't necessarily have to wait. There's no delay in getting their records expunged. Other than that, our more serious offended, justice involved individuals, they have to go through what we call clean slate. And clean slate just means that the person actually has to complete their term of parole in most cases, or I guess probation in a sense. But it just means that they have to complete that. And once they complete that, they're able to now get their record expunged, versus someone nonviolent can get their record expunged right away. So I hope that gives context to, some of the things as it relates to employment and individuals being able to be considered. I will add this, in our current labor market, our current marketplace, there's so many opportunities right now. It's a job seekers market. So everyone seems to be in demand now. And so it's a shortage of labor and workers. And so our justice involved individuals is even being sought after even more so, just for the simple fact that people have different reasons for not wanting to return back to work. And there's a lot of resources funding and training that we provide as an agency. And we work with our industry leaders, you know, trying to help them find talent, train up talent. So I just say all that to say that, you know, more and more employers are becoming flexible when considering formerly incarcerated individuals or justice involved individuals. Just wanted to share that.
Charles, thank you so very much for joining us and really for enlightening some of us that weren't quite up to speed as you are there. Let's move on. Dale, I notice your hand is up.
Dale, you're on mute.
Sorry, Charles, thank you very much. And I'm a resident of Rossmore, and I'm on the board of directors here. And we are short many, many employees. We're having a real difficult time locating employees. I was wondering if maybe you could put into chat, if it exists, some recommendations for sources that we could contact to basically advertise so that we could maybe, you know, hire some people that you're talking about.
Sure, Adele, I'll be happy to do so. And that's one of our primary functions here at the Workforce Development Board, is to provide those type of customized services at no cost to our business and employer constituents here in the county. So I'll put my signature block in the chat and be happy to speak with you offline, where we can explore some options as far as helping you with, you know, putting you guys job announcements out to our various networks and partners.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Dale.
Dale, thank you. Dale, thank you for, oh, go ahead, Dante.
No, definitely, Dale, thank you for that. Just to contest also, you know, Charles does a wonderful job taking off my cap hat with the organization that I work for. He sends out background friendly, you know, employment offers, you know, almost daily, who also, you know, have gotten, you know, a very large percentage of those that have been, you know, impacted, justice impacted, employed. So, you know, he's definitely someone that I'm happy is on the call. And, you know, when we get his link, he adds into directly the recommendation 6 for expanding the county employment opportunities. So thank you, Charles, also for sharing that information.
Yeah, just as 2 examples, we've had to close down one of our 3 swimming pools because we don't have enough lifeguards. And we've also had to discontinue our weekend bus service within Rossmore because we don't have enough drivers. Those are just 2 examples.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments, Jonte. We try to do the best we can in bringing awareness to a lot of the employment and training opportunities. I know, speaking of transportation logistics, one of our priority industry sectors, we can't train enough drivers fast enough, no matter how much funding we have to invest in individual. You know, it's definitely a high demand, you know, and I know in our truck driving school or bus driving schools that we have through our partnerships, the duration of training a professional driver is about 8 weeks, you know, where they can come out with their commercial class A or class B. But, you know, again, it's a demand, but it's just not enough people cycling through fast enough. And so, I mean, it's something that's in demand. I would also say, as an industry in transportation logistics, it is justice friendly. So it doesn't matter about a person's background as long as they can complete a training program such as driving. There's plenty of competitive paying positions waiting for them. Just wanted to share that since Dale brought up drivers.
Okay, well, thank you, thank you. Before we move forward here, 1 second, Patrice, can you give me some guidance here? We are behind on the time template. How do we want to move forward here? We have some things to cover. Give me some guidance.
Yeah, so what we have next up is to start organize or have the body organize itself in terms of the work that it wants to do next. If folks are okay with us moving on, and so instead of us covering the ambassador talking points and executive summary, we can go right into the breakdowns of the subcommittees, because there's a lot of information there, so you guys are aware of how the subcommittees function, the work plans of the previous years, and then then you'll all start to organize yourselves in terms of what committees you would like to serve on this year.
Okay, and
So-
maybe we can catch up. Thank you for that guidance. So here, let me just wrap this up very quickly. Ambassador talking points in your packet, pages 26 to 28. And quite frankly, we did talk about it yesterday. So that should be a completed item. Ambassador executive summary, page 29, 31 of your packet. And again, let's look later on down the line as we meet as a board. We got to figure out a way to make this son of a gun a little smoother, a little easier. I think we can do it with this group. Okay, let's move now. Nicole, can you take us to slide 16, please? Okay, I guess what we want to do now is we're going to figure out what we're going to do on getting organized here moving forward. So let's now move to, basically, these are just some guidelines on your slide here. We don't want to, spend a lot of time reading verbatim here, but these are just. Oh, go
If
ahead.
I may, Crawford, if you don't mind, maybe I can help here and just run through these really quickly, because I think it is important, especially for some of our new, our potential candidates who may be serving. This would be a good opportunity for them to hear some of the guidelines around the CAB committees. So I'll just blow through it really quickly, if that's okay.
Fine then.
Okay, a lot of the language around the CAB committees is in the CAB operating guidelines, which is on page 16 of your packet. So in Article 6, here are some things for you to know about how the subcommittee functions. The subcommittees will typically meet no less than quarterly, and those meetings are open to the public. Currently, they actually meet, or in the previous years, they've been meeting on a monthly basis. So for whatever reason, the committee wants to meet less than that, you cannot meet at least less than quarterly. The CAB vice chair, which our vice chair is Crawford Carpenter, is by default the committee chair for policy and budget. Other committee leadership will be named and or rather appointed by the CAB chair and confirmed by the full CAB for a vote. CAB members should not engage in activities that are not within the purpose or responsibilities as outlined in the charters or conflict with the operating guidelines. So that's why it's really imperative that you are aware of those guidelines. Committees may recommend policies and decisions falling within their scope of authority to the full CAB for approval. So typically the work that's done through the subcommittee at the subcommittee level, if you're wanting any actions to be taken by the full CAB, you would have to take that forward to the full CAB to receive, to take a vote on that. Each committee will function with a committee chair, vice chair, and at least one more CAB member. So at a minimum, we like to see the CAB membership be of 3 CAB members. They can be more than that, but we'll have to deal with quorum to making sure that folks will continue to participate, can maintain their commitment to that, so that quorum is always sustained. Committee chair is responsible for conducting meetings, developing and distributing agendas, and ensuring compliance with applicable policies involving advisory bodies. And then lastly, committee vice chairs shall act as the committee chair in his or her absence and prepare written summaries of committee meetings and activities. So typically we request from each committee chair to submit their summary report out to be included as their record of action, to take the place of a record of action and or minutes of that meeting. And I think that's it.
Well,
So we can go
okay,
into policy and budget subcommittee.
okay, please go to page 17, slide 18, go to page 17 if you would. Policy and budget. Let's just talk briefly. The policy and budget it says subcommittee, but our charter says these are standing committees. We'll work that out later. But its purpose is to assist CAB in making policy and budget recommendations to advance effective uses of AB 109 funds and the distribution of those funds. I'm not going to read all of the detail, but stay with me, please, on this page. You can read the key responsibilities, which you'll notice there in point 3 at your leisure. The detailed committee work plan is on page 39. Nicole, I believe you are up next. You are going to cover the Programs and Services Committee.
Thank you, Crawford. Yes, and that is on page 18. Okay, so I won't read it in full detail. The purpose of the Program and Services Committee is to review, the current service providers that are in place, looking at the practices and the looking at the evidence-based practices that they're utilizing and how the services are being used within those programs, and making recommendations to CAB, CCB, and the Board of Supervisors for changes. Section 3 outlines the responsibilities. Crawford, I didn't write down the page number, but the workflow is also in here, which we will look. I was trying to stay on top with you and look for the page quickly.
Okay, hey, no worry. Page 38 of the packet.
The workflow is also in here, which I believe we may revisit a little later as we, go into more detail about the subcommittees. Let's see here, make sure I'm on track here. And again, when you have a second, you can kind of go over the responsibilities. I won't read them all. And last year was my first year, so if I miss something, she's my go-to girl on the committee. But it was really awesome. Last year, we talked about restorative justice and how we can implement that in reference to this population. And also at the end, looked at some things in reference to housing. But the focus is to look at certain areas or recommendations from CAB for some of the services out there to see how we can either utilize them more with this population or recommend changes to better those services for this population.
And thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, would you move, please, Nicole? Let's slow up here a little bit to slide 20. I got to take a deep breath because during our break, I had to run downstairs. My wife made me pull the wash out of the washing machine, put that in the dryer, and take the stuff in the dryer and throw that on the floor. I got to sort that when this is over.
Give her a high five for me.
Yeah, okay. Slide.
Are we doing slide or page?
Oh, okay. Well, you can go to the page. This is where I guess I served and just had the most fun you can. I just don't think you can believe the fun we had on outreach and community engagement. First of all, let's talk about what the purpose was, etc. The purpose was to provide information to the community at large as to what CAB is doing and to solicit community input. And how can I say this? We had an opportunity to reach out to our junior college people, individuals. There's a Department or Administration of Justice. Our committee had a chance to make a presentation to them. So we do have a resource we can draw on from an academic standpoint that hopefully is new information. And then we had an opportunity, our committee has reached out to state senators. We have contacts at each office. We have state representatives. We have contacts at each office. So our committee has really gone to, really gotten to it, so to speak. Board of Supervisors, committee contacts, And then the big enchilada here, for crying out loud, we've got contacts at 99% of every city in Contra Costa County. So that's the work that your doggone outreach and community engagement committee was involved in. And Kenya, by the way, she has a child that's challenged, and through her leadership, we got that work done. So that's what we did. So I've given you my advertisement for that committee. Hopefully you've got a solid background to work on going forward. Okay. Any questions on any of the standing committees that we have chatted about? Okay, then, Nicole. I think Nicole is back up.
This is Lanita. Can I just take a minute to acknowledge that?
By all means.
I am very impressed with that. I appreciate your work. I sit on the Contra Costa County Women's Commission, and we have not been able to do that. So I appreciate that, and having a contact in each city, that is amazing work. Thank you.
Lanita, if you need any assistance, Nicole Popchik has that information detailed, and we do update it as appropriate. We'd be more than glad to share it.
I'll definitely be in touch.
Okay.
Amazing.
I feel like I have to go back and re-advertise program and services. I
Well,
wasn't
you had
prepped.
your
Now, wait a
chance,
minute.
Nicole.
I didn't know it was an advertising moment, you know.
I think you should. So folks,
You should.
Yeah, I think you should.
Come on, Lottie, come step in when we have to advertise. We need a bigger surrounding of people. Let's talk about restorative justice and all that hard work that was put in there. Like, come on.
Okay. Hey, Nicole, seriously, why don't you tell us if you want to give your advertisement, and then we'll circle back to Jonte and he can give his advertisement for doggone policy and budget. Why not? It'll only take a second.
So I'll try again. So again, this was my my first year on the subcommittee, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I've learned a lot. With being on that subcommittee, again, you look at the services that are out there and kind of ensure that they are working for this population. You're able to make those recommendations. Like if you've been part of, if you have that personal feedback, or you know about some of the services out there that you may feel like there could be some changes that can be implemented, or recommendations that you want to make about how they can be done better, that subcommittee is the place to go. We have a lot of fun. Lila, we have a lot of fun. I mean, COVID, was a bit challenging for us, but I'm hoping with the changes, with everything open back up, that we can actually do a lot of things in our work plan. I was really excited about the opportunity to possibly be able to go out to some of the partners, our CBOs, to kind of get an idea of what they do. I know Monique is working on some of those things, but if you're interested in knowing about the programs that are out there and making recommendations, coming over here with me and Lila is the place to be,
And we also,
hey, I'm so old, I would like to be a part of that.
Thank you.
We also support services for mental
Dale.
health.
Thank you, Dale. Yes, see, that's
We
the
also
key
support mental health services, Crawford.
Okay.
Yeah, my golly.
Thank you, Dale.
Yes, Dale. Okay, Jonte, you've got 1 minute, but you'll probably take 2.
Well, I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm almost like on a used car dealership lot. You and Nicole trying to sell it, but obviously policy and budget is where it's at.
Yeah.
We are the watchdogs. We, take a look at what funding has been allocated to the CBOs, and we definitely provide recommendations based on the interventions that they're giving to the beneficiaries, as well as the outcomes that they're giving back to us. We really take back to the full board the information that we get from the CBOs, and combine that with the whole group to make our overall yearly recommendations to the CCP. So policy and budget definitely is the place to be.
Well, again, thank you. Hey, Hey, thank you, the representatives from each of those committees. Hey, we got those pitches in. Now, Nicole, the floor is yours. Proceed, my friend.
So I will be going over and Crawford, correct me if I'm wrong, forgive me. I have my notes, I kind of throw the notes and assignment for membership to subcommittees. Slide 21.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure I'm on the right. Okay, awesome. Nicole, do you want to put it back to the PowerPoint or will we stay here? So I just want to point out some key items here, notes on assigning memberships to subcommittees. So members are required to participate in at least one subcommittee and are permanent to serve on more than one subcommittee. Members can assign themselves to the subcommittee of their choice. Remember our great advertising, so pick wisely. Memberships and active participation in each subcommittee require a minimum of 3 members to maintain a quorum and meeting proceedings. Most of CAB's work is conducted through subcommittees, therefore it meets as frequently as the full board. So don't let that part freak you out. I can honestly tell you, as my first year, it was fun. We got to meet, once a month and talk about those key objectives for that subcommittee. And let's see, the next one, share screen for real-time assignments.
Yeah, so at this time, well, before we do that, we go into that, our hope was to, in real time, give everyone an opportunity to select, all the CAB members to select which committee that they would like to be a part of. Just know that not all of our CAB members are here today. So we can still at least note everyone's preference. And then I'll leave it to our CAB chair, Jonte, if you want to instruct us on how you like to move forward, if we should assign for those that are absent to specific committees on their behalf. We could talk through what the next step process should be. Following that, once we've kind of mapped this out, we will then, Jonte, this is a voting item. So then you can certainly entertain a motion to vote on the subcommittee membership. Please keep in mind in terms of chairman or chairwomanship, you are able to appoint a chair to each subcommittee. So you're more than welcome to gauge the interests of those who, once they have decided which subcommittee they will be a part of, you can certainly gauge interest to then make your appointments, and then we can move forward from there.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Patrice. If possible, I would definitely want to start with the chairs, but if we could all vote on that first. And I believe it's the subcommittees that actually vote as to who. Go ahead, Patrice.
No, I was going to say we probably should do the inverse, allow folks to select which committees they want to be a part of. And once you see, and so what Nicole has in front of you is a document where she'll be able to type in real time so you guys can see who's going where. And we want to make sure we have a balanced membership too, across the 3 subcommittees, because, as we mentioned before, we want to make sure that quorum can be maintained and folks are aware of the commitments and are able to fulfill that. So maybe we should start there, allowing folks to announce what preference they want, and then do the selection of chairs.
Okay, got you. All right. So I believe we got our first outreach and community engagement.
Can I just ask one question? I haven't heard anywhere announced how many people maximum can be on each committee, and that might be something good to go over and explain real quickly.
Okay, thank you for that, Jill.
So we don't necessarily have a maximum number, other than the fact that no committee should be more than, more than half plus 1 of the full body. Otherwise, you are entering into a full body meeting, if you will, or forum. So at least at a minimum 3. If we start to get to 4 and 5, just keep in mind that being able to still maintain quorum can sometimes be a challenge. So our recommendation is that you stick more to 3 members, 4 members per subcommittee. And again, you're welcome to serve on more than one. So if we start to see a committee that's getting filled up to about 4, you probably want to select another committee to participate in, or at least to be a formal member. You all are always welcome to attend these meetings as well.
Okay, thank you for that information, Patrice. Okay, so we'll go back to the members self-selecting their subcommittee. We'll start with outreach and community engagement. Nicole, can we get a count for self-selects for that subcommittee?
How do we respond if we want to be on a certain committee?
Let's raise our hands.
I'm raising my hand for outreach and community engagement.
Thank you, Mark. So as of right now, I'm only seeing Mark Ham was raised for outreach and community engagement.
Dante,
Go
might
ahead,
you
Papa.
want to consider Nakenya? I know she's not here. She was the past chair of that committee. And I know Mark, the 3 of us had a ball, but you might want to consider Nakenya.
Okay.
And put a question mark maybe at least there.
We also have Darrell Michael, who's not here today, who's a new member,
Okay.
and Dr. Cole, I think, had to drop off.
Okay. So Nicole, if you will, could you please put in Nakenya's name with a question mark, considering she was the chair of that subcommittee last year and may want to remain there. And let's move over to programs and services. Can we raise our hand if you're self-selecting for that subcommittee? I got Nicole Green. I got Dale. Okay.
Yes, go ahead. This is Dale. Yes.
No, I just seen your hand after I looked back down on my screen and seen Nicole was already on top of it. Well, it's looking like my advertisement speech worked because we got the majority. We'll move over to policy and budget for self-select. And keep in mind that, okay, I see Lila's hand is raised.
I had put Ozzy there. That was her preference before she had to leave.
Right,
She
for
wanted
sure.
to
Yes.
stay on the same committee if she's able to.
Okay, Nicole, is that everyone?
Well, like I mentioned, Darrell Michael is not here today. And then Dr. Cole had to step off as well. And then you are not on any because you're the cab chair. So yeah, that represents, yeah, we have 10 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just Darrell needs a place, and then Dr. Cole.
May I recommend that we put Darrell on outreach and community engagement, having talked to him, and just put a question mark to at least kind of fill in the blank. And I don't know of the interests of Dr. Cole. Maybe someone else does. I know he was on policy and budget previously.
Well, just to share some thoughts, I do know that Dr. Cole will want to remain on policy and budget, but we obviously need, at the very least 3. So we would have to just place him with programs and services right now. And what
Okay,
we could do is circle back once we get some of the vacant seats sort of just filled, and just take it from there, okay? All right, so since we already have the chair for policy and budget, I guess
Dante, I'm sorry, looks like Lila had a question.
I just had my hand raised just to mention that my interest is to primarily be involved in policy and budget, but I, would be attending programs and services for sure initially, so I wouldn't consider myself a full member, but, a part-time member for programs and services initially.
I like that idea.
yeah. And Jonte, I'll help out on outreach and community service until we get stability there. I'll make it my business to help out there with Nakenya, if that eases things a little bit.
So are you guys joining as just participants or voting members? Because that impacts quorum. So I just want to understand. It's
Oh,
fine
boy.
for you to join, but are you joining as a voting member temporarily or?
Well, what do you need? Do you need me to be there temporarily as a voting member? If you do, I will.
You can join temporarily as a voting member and then drop off at the
Okay, yeah, because I believe Michael helped us get started initially, which was very, very helpful. So, okay, put me down there and then put in parentheses temporarily.
I mean, I don't know how much it really helps because the reason I say that is the quorum will now be 3. So,
Oh, so it doesn't help then if yeah,
it
well,
just means that all these individuals have to show up.
Right. That's where it would help at. So if Nakenya doesn't show and you log on, then we would still have quorum, so we would be able to proceed. Or if Daryl, doesn't show, then you would still be there. So you're volunteering for outreach and community engagement, correct, Crawford?
yes, now, and again, now if the numbers work, I think Patrice and Jill were very careful about watch that quorum situation. You get too many people and.
Right. And then also keep in mind, we have vacant seats to fill. So obviously, as we progress throughout the year, they'll be added to, different subcommittees.
Okay,
So,
fine then.
right.
So you're a better salesperson than Nicole was and that I.
Right.
Okay.
I feel like, can we put a question mark next to Dr. Terrence Cole as well for programs and services? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lila. Okay, so it seems like we got that part down. So we want to now move to selecting the vice chair for policy and budget. We'll work our way backwards. So I believe that's Lila, Ozzie, and Crawford. Would one of you like to nominate yourself for vice chair?
I nominate Lila.
All right.
I'm here, and so I accept the nomination. And if Ozzie really wants it later on, we can
I love it. Okay, done.
Do we have any more nominations for Ozzie? Do you nominate yourself for vice chair?
Ozzie's not here.
She's not here.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so, well, really, we couldn't even vote then, correct? Because it's only.
Well, we have a quorum of the full body, so we can vote. It's just a matter. It's just they missed out on the discussion. So if there is, we can vote on what stands now based on what the full body that's here wishes to approve. And then if later any of the members that were not present wish to have change their membership or what have you, you can make those adjustments.
Right, so just to gain a little bit more clarity, Patrice, please, real quick. Policy and Budget votes within itself for their vice chair, correct? It's not the full board.
Last year, they did it at this first subcommittee meeting, but if you want to, you can do it here too.
Oh, okay, well,
Last year, they did it at the actual first meeting.
Yeah, if you wish, if you feel like it's better that the subcommittee should meet first and then determine who would be their vice chair, we can do that. What we do need to probably take care of though is who are the chairs, so you can convene your meetings, which will happen later this month.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Mark, go ahead.
Oh, I just had noticed that Terry Dunn had his hand up before, but wasn't sure what he wanted.
No, I definitely seen it, but I just want to get through with this just real fast. Just within the cab, I know he's gonna fill or seeking to fill one of the vacant seats, but I just wanted to just get through with this portion, okay? Thank you for that, Mark. Moving over to Programs and Services. Within that subcommittee, do I have any self-elect for chair?
I nominate Nicole.
I'll keep it going. Lila left me, so. Co-chair is Dale.
No, if Dr. Cole is interested in being on this, because he has more experience here than I, my preference would be that he be the vice chair. But if he's not interested or not going to be on the committee, then I would be glad to be the vice chair. But I think Dr. Cole would be a better choice.
Okay, I think we're gonna follow Patrice's guidance on that one, and just the first meeting that the subcommittees have, you all will be able to elect your vice chair and decide then. Right now, we're just gonna focus primarily on chairs. Nicole, do you accept chair? Do you accept the nomination?
Sure, yes, aye,
Okay. Okay, with seeing that, Nicole, can we get a roll call for Nicole I raise a motion for Nicole to be voted as Subcommittee Programs and Services Chair?
Are we doing it individually for each subcommittee? Because we have outreach we haven't talked about. Or are we doing it as a whole?
Sure, let's move on to outreach and community engagement. Let me see, I think on the line, only one we have is Crawford and Mark. Do I have any self-elected nominations for chair for outreach and community engagement? Okay, I'm not hearing none. So right now I'm going.
Excuse me, I'll nominate Mark.
Thank you for that, Crawford. That's exactly where I was headed. Mark, do you accept the nomination?
No. Well, right now, I just can't do it right now. Don't have the time. I'm doing some other work, so it would be good anyway. I'm new. I'm trying to make sure I understand everything that's going on before I be a chair. So I have to say no to that.
Okay, so as Mark as declining.
I'd like to nominate.
Go ahead, Patrice.
I was going to say, Nakinya is currently the chair, correct? Of outreach and community engagement.
Yes,
So at least that's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole or Crawford.
She is the current chair.
So if she's the current chair and we have her still with this committee, I think it's safe to say that you can appoint her as chair for now to at least get the meeting started for later this month. And then within their committee, they can kind of reassign themselves if need be. So this one will probably need a little more work, but they can take care of that at their
first subcommittee. Okay, so the only action we have right now, or voting action, is Nicole Green for chair, correct?
Are we voting the entire thing?
Yeah, you're voting. You're voting for the composition as stated here. For all three committees, including the chairs that you've appointed.
Okay. So would we like to take a roll call for it, Nicole?
We need to
have
entertain
to
a
call a
motion and
motion.
a second.
Second.
So motion was from Jonte and second Dale.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Crawford,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Jonte,
Yes.
Lila, Mark,
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, congratulations, everyone. Yay. So now that we have our subcommittees added, we have the dates on there. I believe the subcommittees also at the first one will be able to decide if everyone agrees on a time. You guys do have the flexibility to sort of shift around the times. Is that correct, Nicole?
Yes,
No,
there would be an
so-
opportunity to, yeah, go ahead, Patrice.
I was gonna say, so in preparation for the CAB retreat, the officers met and recommended that we go forward and assign at least the first subcommittees meetings for this month, so you guys can get the ball rolling on reviewing last year's work plan, make those updates, and also talk through your member roles and responsibilities within that committee. So at the very least right now, well, the previous cadence for each of the committees is listed here in front of you. Outreach and community engagement was the third Tuesday of every month from 10 to 11:30. Programs and services was the third Thursday of every month from 11:30 to 1. And then policy and budget, third Friday from 10 a.m. to 12. And so all of these meetings followed the general body meeting for that month, which the general body meeting, as stated above, is always the second Thursday of the month. So just keep that in mind. If you do get into your committees and you all discuss and you find out that actually the meeting schedule no longer works for you guys, it's imperative that you talk it through. Let us know at ORJ how we can support you and we can get a schedule going. But this is the recommended schedule cadence for subcommittee meetings going forward.
And that would make your first meeting next week.
Yeah.
So outreach would be on Tuesday, the 15th, programs and services next Thursday, the 17th, and policy and budget next Friday, the 18th.
Okay. All right, so now that we have gotten through that, it is break time, but I want to take a step back because I want to get to definitely Terry's hand that was raised, and I also see a couple more hands that was raised. So we'll take about 3 minutes max to allow others to chime in. Terry?
Yeah, I was just going to see if it was helpful to have the applicants indicate their future interest, but that's probably getting ahead of things. And you guys got through it now, so.
I think
So
it's
I
a good
withdraw
call out that you guys should join, even though you may not be a voting member yet. Start plugging yourselves into the specific subcommittees or all of them, and kind of get a sense of which one interests you.
Okay.
Because yes, as you said, there'll be some time before you'll be an official voting member on one of these outreaches.
Thanks.
Right, I concur. Excellent idea, Nicole. Dale, I believe you were first.
Yeah. What is our procedure concerning this? Let's say, for instance, that we have a programs and services the meeting, and a quorum is 3. And let's just say, for discussion purposes, that Dr. Cole and Lila would not be able to be there. But let's say that Ozzy would. Could Ozzy be temporarily appointed to be a voting member so that a quorum would be met?
I believe that's only if the chair is present at that meeting, but otherwise she would still be there just as a participant. Is that correct, Patrice?
If the, you're saying cab chair?
Right, so if I'm there at programs and services using Dale's example, if it's missing two, but someone else is there to another participant for that meeting, like Ozzy, could the subcommittee still meet quorum? And I told him
Yeah,
only if the
that's
chair
correct.
right, only if the chair is there to elect it to that subcommittee for that period, for that time, for that day.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Patrice.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Lenita, I know I saw your hand.
Yeah, I believe my question was answered. I was just trying to get the times of the regular general meeting. So I believe it's the second Thursday from 10 to 12.
I think you put in the chat programs and services, third Thursday.
Third Thursday, okay.
Yeah, and I definitely see Terry's chat also. He's interested in programs and services. Okay, Lila, you can bring us home. This will be the last question before break.
Sure. I'm just curious how the agendas will be held for these subcommittees, since these are happening next week and there's a time frame. Are the agendas already created?
I think it'll probably be pretty blunt. Oh, go ahead, Patrice.
So yes, we've been working diligently internally to make sure all of that is ready to go. So you should expect a posting notification likely this Friday of the agendas for all three subcommittees. So your initial, your first order of business, if you will, is going over the roles and responsibilities as members for that subcommittee and to review and update, or at least start this conversation around updating your work plan for the rest of the year.
Nice. Okay, so at this time, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at 11:55.
Okay, maybe it's just gonna be me with this question. The calendar invite that I have says until 12 p.m.
No, it's just you. You're there by yourself. We're all on break. No, I just looked down at that, right? I'm like, why did I just call a break? We're ending at 12.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've already called it. So yeah, we'll just have to get through what we have accomplished, review and reflect. It was funny though, Dale, right? Because I'm like, break. And then I looked down and I said, okay, what time do we end? 12. Why did I just call that break?
It's a good break when it ends too, right? Yeah.
That's right, that part. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so it's 11:55. In essence of time, we'll definitely start back up. And we're down to the final stretch. As we sort of just break into a review of the past 2 days, I just want to throw out there that with all of the information that we have just been given, that we just have went over, I would encourage individuals to isolate key parts that interest you, that work or directly and ties into your expertise. We have a great group here. As an example, it's like for me, I really focus on the housing or SUD treatment portion, where I can be able to give, productive feedback as far as when we make our recommendations. We are going to go a little bit over, so I want to apologize beforehand. You definitely don't have, need to feel like you're hostage. You can log off at 12, but we will start with just a quick review. I know Mr. Crawford has something for us, but we're going to go around just, using one word, describe how you feel about the experience over the last 2 days. I'll start. Intrigued. And feel free just to chime in.
Educational.
Very nice.
Enlightening.
Dynamic.
Ooh, powerful.
This is Lila, excited.
Okay.
Affirming.
Very nice, Scott.
Encouraging.
Gotcha, Terry.
Hopeful.
It's Lanita. Anticipate.
Okay. I was scrolling through the pictures. I was like, who was that? Thank you, Lanita, for that. Okay. The next question, how do you feel about the work going forward?
Excited.
Transformative.
Lanita, hopeful.
Mark, encouraging.
Hopeful.
We already had hopeful, Crawford.
Our word is in Spanish, encargada. It's like charged. I'm charged with something important.
Very nice. All right, moving on. What do you think you will need to support your engagement in CAB this year? I'll start, all of you.
This is Dale. Information.
Commitment.
Lanita, a vote yes.
You got my vote, Lanita.
Participation.
Nice. Okay. I would like to turn it over to Crawford. We got about 2 minutes, Crawford. Just know he has a statement for us, and then we would wrap it up.
Okay, and thank you all who've attended. We have some serious tasks ahead of us. Jante, Nicole, and I are looking at potential engagement areas and would like to share them with you. We kind of refer to these as our wish list. We trust this reflects our desire to literally hit the ground running and to be proactive in our approach to working with each of you. Let me go down this list. There are 8 items, so I'm going to get on my doggone bicycle. Number 1, visit HBOs funded by CAB. The next item, this is my pet peeve, mental health considerations. What can we do to ensure that this subject is front and center? The next item, mentor standing committee board chairs and vice chairs for success. because their success will be the success of CAB in the future. We want to move. We want to move our calendar so ambassador assignments are concluded by September, and that's a big wish, but by George, we may be able to do it. And this is key. We represent those who have a limited voice. So let's get to work on their behalf. At your direction, and I mean this, I'm directing this to Jonte, there are 3 CAB officers. And with the 3 CAB officers, wouldn't it be, I'll use the word neat, that's what my grandkids use a lot, for each of us to make 4 individual calls each month to a board member. And Jonte, you can assign Nicole 8 and me 1 and you whatever's left over. But if we divvy this up and we assign, then we get the pulse of what we're doing. We get a pulse so that when we have these dad blame meetings, we're ready. And when we have these meetings, we're in a position to say, hey, you know what? I didn't exactly think about X. Maybe we need to move to Y, etc. And learn. We are not lean. We need to lean on our Board of Supervisors office contacts for vision and a reality check. We should consider assigning a CAB member to each supervisor's office with the purpose of contacting them each month. And I kind of refer to this as a lousy 5-minute phone call prior to our monthly general meeting, and then just come back and say, I talked to Jill and Jill has X, Y, Z, or Jill's tired of hearing this or tired of hearing that. We can work with these Board of Supervisor officers. And then this is a real wish list. When we were during the period of Christmas, etc., it just dawned on us, what can we do for returning citizens and their families during Thanksgiving or Christmas, be it food, toys, etc. Now, this may be out of our scope. I understand that, but I had to say that. And then finally, I want to use this phrase here for maybe as we approach how we move forward. Let's be quick, let's be focused, but most of all, let's not hurry. That's it from Jonte, Nicole, and me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Crawford. Couldn't have said it any better. I definitely stand grounded with our wish list, and I hope that the rest of the CAB and other members continue to support us with our ideas. Just wrapping it up, any final questions or remarks from anyone on the call?
If I can, I just want to say on behalf of ORJ, it is such a privilege to provide support to all of you. This is such a dynamic body. It is of all of the bodies that we support or participate in. There's no doubt that this is the most community oriented. This one feels like the face of the community. And so being able to support you guys in any way that we can, even though at times it is a lot of work, it is it's certainly work that we take pride in doing for you. So thank you for your leadership and for your direction. And we're just happy to be here for you guys.
Okay. So without hearing and seeing any other last remarks, we'll convene at 12:04. Thank you so much all for attending.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.